Good morning, good evening, good night, whenever you guys are watching this channel. First, subscribe. I'm going to share with you guys Senator Paul's interview a couple of weeks ago that he had. It's very interesting. I really like Dr. Paul. If he run for president, if I had to choose between him and Trump right now at this moment, I would choose Senator Paul. But check this interview out and you tell me what you think, and we'll watch it together.
Dr. Paul, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Glad to be with you.
So last week when you were at Big Board, a D.C. bar shut down by the government for defying the vaccine mandate, you talked a little bit about civil disobedience and civil resistance. Do you believe that vaccine mandates are legitimate?
No, I don't. I think a private business would make these own decisions and customers would make their own. So if you're overly cautious and let's say you just think everybody should be vaccinated and you're not going to go anywhere, you could not go anywhere at all. That's one choice, stay home. Or you could go to bars that require vaccine passports. Or if you've already had the disease and been vaccinated 14 times, maybe you just go wherever the heck you want. And so people would make their decisions. And if it were unpopular not to have a vaccine passport, he wouldn't be successful. But the government shouldn't be in the business of this. Really, even people who've been for the mandates, like the head of Israel's vaccine program, pro-vaccine, pro-mandate, he said there's no longer a reason to have vaccine passports because it doesn't stop transmission anymore. It probably still helps to protect your health if you take it, if you're at risk, and but it doesn't really stop transmission. People are getting it. If you've been vaccinated, you can get it as easy as if you've been unvaccinated.
So as a doctor yourself, what do you make of mandates for healthcare professionals?
You know, I find them even more repulsive. The thing is that most of the doctors and nurses worked throughout COVID for over a year with no vaccine available. Many of them got COVID, some of them died, but many of them survived COVID. So the thing is it should be incumbent upon the people who want to do the mandate to prove that they need to be vaccinated. It turns out that 2 weeks ago, the CDC released a study of 1 million people. They found that if you've been vaccinated versus unvaccinated, that you're 20 times less likely to go to the hospital. That's good. But if you've been infected, like me, but not vaccinated, like me, you're 55 times less likely to go to the hospital than someone who hasn't been infected or vaccinated. So there is a benefit from having had the disease, and there's a benefit from having had the vaccine. But people should be allowed to make this choice, and it's wrong-headed to make these mandates on the doctors and nurses because many of them already had the disease. They actually have better immunity than the vaccine, and yet we're still punishing them.
I'm going to pause it right there. That is so true. You know, yesterday I went in and my son had to get a little blood work done. And I don't know how this subject popped up, but one of the nurses there, you know, was talking about, asked my son, have he been vaccinated and all that other stuff, you know. And I asked her, have you been vaccinated? And she said, yes. I said, okay. She said she had the 2 doses. I said, what about the booster? She said, no. She said the only reason she got the vaccination was because she had to get it to keep her job. She said, why don't they treat it as if it was the flu? You know, get a shot once a year. We're going to have to live with this. And she was going on and on. I said, okay, I was just asking the conversation. But she was very upset about getting a booster maybe every 3-4 months. And it's just difficult. And another thing, I stopped by the bank because I can't get in touch with nobody at the bank. And I was in the line and it was just only one teller there. This in Texas, you know. And I had to wait 10-15 minutes and a few people. And when I got up there and I asked the teller, I said, where are all your employees? She said, well, they're out sick. And a lot of people are using this sickness stuff to take off work. Yeah. I said, look like you guys are short-handed. I said, maybe nobody wants to work. She said, yeah, they want to work, but they're just out sick. I said, so you got enough employees that want to work? She said, yes. I said, why you guys got this hiring? We need help. You hiring? She said, that's a good question. She said, maybe we don't have enough employees that want to work. She said, we had this sign out for a while. Nobody wants to work. I said, there you go. But anyway, we'll go forward with this interview.
The height of the hypocrisy of this was about 2 weeks ago, it was reported that so many doctors and nurses had COVID, they were letting them continue to work while they were positive with COVID. So which would you rather have, a doctor who's actually coughing up COVID or a doctor that's already had it from 2 years ago, doesn't have a vaccine but isn't sick? We're actually letting sick doctors with COVID work as opposed to letting someone unvaccinated work. I mean, it's awful. The man who's been denied a kidney transplant or a heart transplant, testing for antibodies. If he's got antibodies, he's as good as the vaccine or better. Let him have his heart transplant. I mean, it's just insane that they do things they say based on science, but they're really actually ignoring the science.
And you've spoken many times about the health officials who have said one thing on COVID and then done another, or have been consistently wrong when it comes to COVID. Should there be any consequences or repercussions for health officials or Democratic lawmakers that were wrong?
Absolutely. Dr. Fauci's chief among them, and he should be fired. He should be let go immediately. Much of the disinformation that he's put forward is actually harmful. So, for example, if you're 80 years old and your spouse has COVID, and Dr. Fauci says, oh, just wear a cloth mask. What is he doing? He's lying to you because they don't work, but he's also putting you at risk because you may think, well, I can intimately be taking care of my loved one, but I'm protected with a cloth mask. You actually engage in activity, you think you're protected from the disease, and you catch it because the cloth masks don't work. The virus goes through the mask, it goes around the mask, it just doesn't work. Also with the natural immunity, he's completely ignored the immunity you get from having had the disease. But in doing so, he doesn't think we have enough immunity, so now he wants to force vaccines on newborns and little kids. And the thing is, the reason he's doing that is he says, oh, we're not vaccinated enough. But even that's not really true on a lot of levels. If you look at the CDC website for people over 65, 97% of people voluntarily chose to get vaccinated because this is a disease that kills older people primarily. They almost all voluntarily took the vaccine. So we aren't under-vaccinated. But if you combine the 97% of over 65 that got it, combine that with those who got it naturally, the CDC website says 78 million people have had COVID. Most of the predictions when you do antibody surveys, just by drawing blood to see if people have it, estimate that for every one that's been recorded, there's 2 more that have been unrecorded because they didn't get sick enough to even go to the doctor. So this means we're close to 200 million people have had it. We're over 200 million people have been vaccinated. My goodness, we're over-flogging this. What we need to do now is concentrate on the breakthroughs. So people who get sick, still usually age or being overweight, let's help those people. There's a lot of treatment out there. Let people know you need to get the treatment sooner rather than later.
And I'd love to point out to you, we saw maybe 2 weeks ago, Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, and Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, both maskless at a football game. And now we have the Super Bowl coming up in Los Angeles, where they'll be requiring masks. What's your take on that?
I think the question, if we could get Eric in for an interview, would be to ask the mayor of Los Angeles, are you going to hold your breath for 4.5 hours during the Super Bowl? Are you going to put that mask in between holding breath? I mean, just the insanity of it all. They just give it up. These mandates are wrong-headed. All these people get caught going somewhere because nobody can live that way. So they really are wearing the mask sometimes when someone's looking is when they're wearing the mask. It's theater. But they deserve all of the derision and accusations of hypocrisy. I think that's accurate. And
what about Stacey Abrams taking a photo with no mask on in front of all these masked children?
Maybe.
And I like how he answered this question. Rand Paul, you can tell this man is speaking from within, and he's going to watch how he explain this about people taking their masks off. You can't keep this mask on forever. You know, you got to put it back on in front of the camera. Or are you going to have to, once you get out away from the camera, you notice that these people are going to take them off. But check out how he answered this question.
Maybe she was holding her breath. I don't know. But, I mean, you know, and the more pictures came out, she's just being dishonest about it. I was in a committee hearing. It was a classified hearing, and no Republican had a mask on. All the Democrats had a mask on. And I sent a note to the senator next to me and said, you want to bet how long it takes them to take their mask off? It took about an hour, but by the end of the hour, they're rubbing their beard, rubbing their face. Everybody's got their mask off. Everybody's, you know, it is just theater. But they'll put them back on when they go outside in case the camera catches them.
Well, I'd also love to talk about this Freedom Convoy, the Canadian truckers who are protesting vaccine mandates for drivers who will be crossing the border. We just heard this morning that there's a potential that there will be such a convoy in Los Angeles about the Super Bowl, and perhaps one later in D.C. What do you make of all this?
I'm all for it. Civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is a time-honored tradition in our country, from slavery to civil rights to you name it. Peaceful protest, clog things up, make people think about the mandates. And some of this we started. We put mandates on truckers coming across the border from Canada, so then they put mandates on, and the truckers are annoyed. They're riding in a cab by themselves, most of them, for 8, 10-hour long hauls, and they just want to do what they want to do. It's their own business. And it's the way healthcare used to be. It used to be your own business, what you and your doctor talked about or what medications you took. It wasn't anybody else's business.
And do you foresee that D.C. would react in a certain way if such a convoy came here?
It'd be great. But the thing is, it wouldn't shut the city down because the government workers haven't come to work in 2 years anyway. So I don't know if it'll affect D.C. It'd be a nice change. We'd actually have some traffic. So not only the government workers don't come to work in D.C., neither are the tourists allowed. I mean, Nancy Pelosi closed the Capitol down 2 years ago for God knows what reason. And, you walk in there, and I'll give people a tour on occasion. We're the only people in the Capitol. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But I hope the truckers do come to America. I hope they clog up cities. And we're seeing a break in the dam now. Several Democratic governors are finally sort of relinquishing. So what they're finding is moms and dads that are upset about this are not just Republican. Everybody's upset about this. They're annoyed that their little kids have to be in a mask when even they are starting. It's breaking through, even through CNN. You got the, Dr. Fauci acolyte, that woman's like, oh, but facial masks are now just simply decoration. She's admitting the truth. That's what they've been the whole time, but she's finally admitting it. So even people who only watch CNN are finally getting the understanding that the masks don't work, and they're starting to push back too.
Well, so as we see these mask mandates or vaccine mandates end and the country start to go back to normal, how much gaslighting do you think we will see from Democrats on how the Biden administration handled this?
I think they'll never admit they're wrong. I think the White House is sort of the last place where any common sense creeps in. But there's a big danger to it. I mean, Biden went out on a limb and accused President Trump of being responsible, directly responsible for like 300, 400,000 deaths. Everybody died in COVID in the last year of Trump's administration. Biden said he was responsible. Well, now more people have died under the first year of Biden. Do you think he's going to accept, the responsibility for that? But that's why they have to pivot away. If we get to November 2022 and this is all about COVID, people are unhappy with the mandates. They also see we've had more deaths under Biden than Trump. They're like, why did we elect this guy? And his numbers are plummeting. And they're starting to say what many on the right said all along, that many of the deaths that are being recorded are dying with COVID, not from COVID. And we gave the hospitals a financial incentive to record them as COVID. And guess what? If people pay you to do something, people will do it. And our numbers are higher than the rest of the world because I think we over-report the deaths from COVID.
So
I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. It's a little more to this interview. I'll put a link in the description below. I think it's another 5 minutes left. But this mask mandates, I see a lot of places are dropping them now, like New York. They're getting rid of the mask mandate, and then letting these businesses decide for themselves. I seen this lady on the news the other day. She's a teacher, and she had this one student in her class for like 3 months, and these kids have to wear these masks, and you're breathing in the air you breathe out, you breathing it right back in. And I know sometimes this stuff will cause a headache, but anyway, when they got rid of the mask mandate, that same kid came in with the parent, and the teacher that's been teaching this kid for 3 months did not recognize this kid without a mask on. That's sad. Even when I go into places, I take my mask off sometimes because I want people to see the expression on my face, because sometimes they don't know your reaction if you're serious or not when you're having a conversation with them, because your facial expression, your smile, you can't even smile. They can't see your smile. They don't know if you're smiling or frowning. So you're trying to read a person by their eyes. But anyway, I'll let you guys go. It's Friday. Me and my wife will go to a little trip. Maybe we might go to the casino and try to win some money. We're going to relax. Like I said, this week was a big week for her. She passed the NCLEX and with an RN, BSN. And so we're going to go and celebrate that, go get some massages and go relax in the sauna and maybe get some pedicures and manicures and all that other stuff. You got to enjoy life. If you're going to stay home and just watch CNN, you guys go ahead. But we're going out and enjoy life. We're not going to wait till we die and enjoy it in heaven. We're going to enjoy it right here on earth. Have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on your notifications, and share this video. Also leave comments. Thanks for watching Welding and Stuff.